Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 254, and I'm Lisa, your host. I'm Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, and I have a Fiber Nymph account on Instagram, which is my personal account, and then there's also the Fiber Nymph Dyeworks account on Instagram, which is for my business. There is a 90% Knitting group on Ravelry, which is where I will be posting show notes. There's also a Fiber Nymph Dyeworks group on Ravelry, which updates you about the yarn shop and specials and such as things like that. And lastly, there's a Fiber Nymph Dyeworks page on Facebook, which is a great clearinghouse kind of spot to go to. I try to post, pretty much everything about when new podcasts go up, things going on with the shop, knit-alongs, and other random assorted items get posted there. So you can follow me in any of those locations if you are so inclined. Today is Tuesday, August 29th, and I am fairly freshly back from vacation. We got back Sunday, so I missed a week recording last week because I was away, and I pretty much was not on social media at all. Well, a little bit. I posted to Instagram a little bit, but not very much. It was I was off the grid, and I kind of enjoyed it. Part of it was connectivity issues, and part of it was I just wanted to relax, and so I did. It's good to do that occasionally. I have a little bit of a scratchy throat thing going on today, so I'm drinking tea, trying to keep it from being an issue. And I'm also not feeling 100%. I don't know if maybe vacation just did me in, but we got back Sunday evening, and I almost immediately ended up with a stomach thing almost as soon as we got home. It kind of made me laugh in a way because it's like, okay, I'm home and it's making me sick. Maybe I'm allergic to Pennsylvania. I don't think so because I love Pennsylvania and I love my home. But yeah, and then yesterday and today I've just been not feeling 100%. And so if I'm a little foggy today and that comes across, I apologize. I'm trying to stay focused here. But I wanted to record and just catch you up on things. I will tell you a bit about my vacation a little later on in the podcast. But I'm going to start out with knitting because that's what this is, right? It's a knitting podcast. So let me begin by saying I actually did not knit very much on my vacation, which was weird because I usually do, especially when there's a lot of driving involved. But I think what happened was I knit so much this summer for Stash Dash that I honestly think I just sort of burned myself out. I knit so many socks. Socks are about the last thing I want to be knitting right now. And that's a great car item. So I only knit on one pair of socks, which I'll show you in a minute. The one item that I did work on, and I actually started and finished while I was knitting in the car, I can't show you because it's a sample for the Legends, Myths, and Fairy Tales Club for the shipment that's going to be going out either today or first thing tomorrow morning. So I'm not going to post any pictures of that until after that shipment goes out. But I can show it to you probably next week when I record. I just don't want to be a spoiler for anyone who's in the club. So anyway, of all the other, I took like 7 projects with me and didn't knit very much. But of all the other things that I did take with me, this project is the one that got the most love while I was away, and this is the Close to You shawlette scarf thing by Justina Lorkowska, which you saw last time. And let me see, I need to try to get it turned in a way that you can actually see things. So I have knit on this. I'm just about ready to do the 15th, to finish the 15th repeat. I have to do the bind off and eyelet row on that. And then, knit back. So then that will be 15 repeats finished. The pattern calls for doing 19 repeats, I believe. I will probably end up doing 1 or 2 more just because I think I have more yarn than what the pattern actually called for. I had more yardage. But we'll see where we are once I get to number 19. There's no reason why I can't. I don't really have the need of having leftover yarn for this. The yarn, as I told you last time, this is a base that I don't carry in the shop yet. I may. I ordered a skein of it so that I could test it out, and I just dyed it one day with some leftover colors that I had after a dye session. I'm out in the porch room again, and it's later in the morning than it was last time, so it's actually, even though it's not super sunny out today, it's overcast, but it's bright right now, and it's blowing the colors out a little bit, so I'm sorry about that. But when I hold it close, you can see it pretty well. So it's very pastel-y, and this is not really my favorite color palette for me. I may end up just gifting this to someone, but the whole point of me knitting with this particular yarn was to try it out and see if it's something that I would like to carry in the shop. And I do think I would like to, because it's a very nice yarn. It's got a lovely drape. It is 50% superwash merino and 50% cotton. So it's going to take dyes lighter than what it would if those same dyes were on 100% wool, because the cotton will act as a diffuser almost. So it's coming along fine, and like I said, it's been very enjoyable to knit. It's sort of along the same lines as, you know, like a hitchhiker or any of those things that you're doing that same repeat back and forth, just the rows are getting longer. So it was a good one to have with me. I knit on it poolside, I knit on it in the car, I knit on it, you know, when I felt like knitting, I was usually knitting on that. Let's put it that way. The one other project that I did knit on a decent amount in the car, but only on the ride down and on the ride back, was a sweater. I took my Hero cardigan project with me. This I cast on probably late spring, and this was the one that I'm making out of the Letlopi. Well, here's one of the tags. I can show you the tag. This is an Icelandic wool called Letlopi, and I bought this from the Woolly Thistle, the yarn. Here's a full skein of it. And I cast it on late spring, and then I kind of got to the point where I lost my sweater mojo because it was starting to get warmer, and then Stash Dash started, and I knew I did not want to work on these sweaters because I have the Pluto Lopi sweaters also on the needles. I knew I did not want to be working on Icelandic wool sweaters for Stash Dash. That just seemed torturous. So they've been sitting aside, but I did decide I really want to knit on sweaters right now. That's actually, like, if I want to be working on anything, it's sweater projects, even though neither of these Icelandic sweaters that I'm working on at the moment or that I have on the needles are really, really the ones I want to be working on. But I feel like since I have these two sweaters cast on, I should at least be working on one of them. So this was the one that I chose. It's not very exciting to look at because basically it's 11 inches of gray. When you saw it last, several months ago, it was about, here's the marker. So I had cast on and gotten up to here, and in the car over vacation, I got from the marker up to here, which that's not really very much. It's maybe about 5 more inches. Like I said, it's a little over 11 inches now. I want it to get to 15 inches before I start doing whatever I'm going to need to do for the armholes and such. So we will see how that goes. I think it'll get more exciting once I get up to the point where I'm doing the color work, because this is a color work sweater. Again, it's Hero, H-I-R-O, by Julia Farwell Clay. And I think I'm using US 5s. I think that's what these are. I can't be sure at the moment because the number is not written on the cable anywhere, and I did not have a needle gauge with me, and I've got like 2 other sizes of needles in this project bag. I'm not sure what they are, but they're the needles that were giving me gauge back at the beginning, and so I just knit with them. I thought it was looking kind of wide, like really, you know, wide around, and so I actually knitted onto a second needle today so that I could stretch it out and just sort of wrap it around me to make sure this wasn't going to turn out gargantuan, and it's not. It looks big, I think, just because of how it is right now. I'm knitting, I don't remember which size specifically I'm knitting, but I'm knitting a size larger for the body, and then once I get up to the yoke part, I will go down a size. That tends to be what I do for sweaters recently, and that seems to work well for me because I'm much smaller in the shoulder area than I am through my middle. So I always like to have the extra fabric to cover up the lumps and bumps and then not have the sweater hanging off my shoulders. So that's as far as I got on that. I'm going to try to, keep at that. This is a back and forth design. Actually, the whole sweater, including the color work, is supposed to be worked back and forth. But I am going to take the advice of a couple of people who said that they made it, and when they got to the color work section, they cast on a few extra stitches as like a steek line and then knit the color work in the round. That is what I'm going to be doing because I do not look forward to knitting color work back and forth. I've done it before. It's just not a favorite thing. So, okay, so that's coming along. And then the only other project that I've worked on is actually a sock. Since I had like 4 single socks that I finished for Stash Dash, it would be nice if I actually finished some of their mates. So before I left, I cast on the second sock for the Bold Berry Swirl Splash Pad Party colorway that I did for this year. And so I've got the cuff done and I'm working on the heel flap. So it's coming along. It's just plain stockinette. It's in a stockinette sock in my bounce base on US 1s, which is my go-to for most socks, really, especially stripy socks. So that's really not all that exciting. Actually, none of my knitting seems to be all that exciting to me this week. Like I said, I'm just sort of in a knitting funk or something. I don't know. I'm sure it'll come back. What I would really like to be doing is casting on sweaters out of some of those sweater lots of Cascade 220 that I purchased during the web sale earlier this year. That's what I would really like to be working on. But I don't think I want to go there. I don't want to start casting on multiple sweaters because number one, I'm not sure that I have enough needles to cast on multiple sweaters, and I really don't want to start buying extra needles just to have a lot of sweaters going that are never going to see the light of day again or something. But I'm going to try to work on this one anyway. I'm not sure. I will say, that was probably not the brightest sweater for me to take with me on a vacation where I was going to be knitting in the car in the heat. And even though the car's air conditioned, it was sunny, it was warm. I was in shorts and I was knitting Icelandic wool. That wasn't a great choice. It was itchy and it's a little sheddy. I ended up having to I had a hoodie with me, a lightweight hoodie. I just kind of draped it over my lap as a blanket to catch, to keep it from rubbing on my legs because it was a little itchy. It's definitely not a next to skin soft wool, but I knew that going in, and I don't intend to wear this sweater next to my skin without a t-shirt or something on underneath it anyway, so I think it'll be fine. When I soak it, I'll probably put a little bit of hair conditioner or something in the water just to try to soften it up a little bit, but it's not a good warm weather sweater. And that's the funny thing, because the other sweater I've got on the needles is the one out of the Pluto Lopi, which is another, Icelandic wool sweater. So I could justify casting on a different wool sweater. Or I could justify maybe casting on a sweater out of the Elspeth Levold silky wool that I have, because even though that's got some wool in it, it also has silk and I think nylon or something. So that wouldn't be quite as itchy or prickly to work with, not really itchy. Yeah, I could easily justify a lot of things, but I'm holding off. I'm trying to behave. So we'll see how long I can do that. Anyway, that's really all I have to show you with regard to knitting, because like I said, I just did not spend a whole ton of time knitting while I was away. And I did not do any spinning, obviously. I'm not somebody who takes spinning on vacation with me. I know some people will take drop spindles or whatever, but I don't tend to do that. Sometimes I do it, but then I never touch it, so I've just learned to not really bother. It just seems to make more sense to leave it at home. Alrighty, let's talk about the knit-along. The year in the life of a knitter knit-along. We are almost through with August, and I will be quite honest with you, I am completely behind in reading posts in that thread. Again, while I was away, I just was not on the internet very much. I also had a lot of connectivity issues. It was just hard to get on the internet, which was surprising at my mom's, because usually that's not an issue there, but it was this time. So I haven't had a chance to read. So I have a lot of catching up to do, but I have not really made any posts I think there's been probably close to like 400 posts though since the beginning of the month. So we're going to have quite a number of prizes for this month again. I will be announcing the August prize winners next week when I record. I can't show you prizes right now because they are actually back at my house and I'm up here at the mountain house, so I will have them with me when I record next week. And so September will be our final summer quarter month, and I mentioned last time that the September focus will be slip stitches. And so if you're knitting something with slip stitches or you'd like to focus on those kind of projects in September, that would fit in. It's not necessary, it's just sorry, Muffin's over here in the corner and she's scratching and her collar is jingling, if you can hear that, sorry. Yeah, so slip stitches is the focus, and the September challenge is called Shortcuts. I know I explained this last time, but I'm going to try to explain it a little bit again because I don't think I made the connection. I usually try to make the challenges, the monthly challenges, somewhat related to the focus in some way. I don't always, but that's been a thing I've tried to do. And in my mind, anytime you're doing like slipped stitches, that kind of feels like a shortcut because those are stitches that you're not actively knitting. So to me, when you use slipped stitches, that's sort of a shortcut. It makes the knitting go faster. It's a little easier. Plus it's, you know, a design element and it produces a pretty texture and look. So that was where the idea for the Shortcuts challenge came from. As far as what you consider a shortcut, that is completely up to you. The qualifications for your challenge projects in September is that you have to use at least 50 yards of yarn, or if you're doing a sewing project, a 1/4 yard of fabric per project. But it has to, your project has to incorporate some kind of shortcut while in your making of it. Now, and that's the thing, that's more of a process thing than what you're going to see in the finished product. Now, with slip stitches, obviously you will see your slip stitches most likely. But not all shortcuts are visible in the end product. So that's fine. It doesn't have to be. As long as it's a shortcut for you and you can explain the shortcut when you post your finished object picture. And explain what the shortcut was and you know how that's a shortcut for you if it's not super obvious, then it counts, and that'll work for the September challenge. So that will start on September 1st. Obviously, I will have threads up for that. Well, I'll have a thread up for that. We'll still be posting in the summer quarter thread for our general chatter, and then I will also have no, I won't. It will just be, sorry, I thought I was going to say, never mind. That wouldn't have made any sense. 2 threads. The one that we've already got going on, which is the summer quarter thread, we will continue through September, and also the September challenge thread, which will be for finished objects only, a no chatter thread as always. If you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to ask in the general chatter thread or PM me or whatever, and I can hopefully clarify things for you. Other than that, I don't really have anything new to show you today. I did, you know, pick up some stuff here and there down in on vacation, but none of it was knitting related. I did not go to any yarn shops. My little mug that I'm using today is actually new. There was a really cute little shop. My mom lives in Fernandina Beach, and on Center Street is where there's all these cute little gift shops and everything. There's some off-center as well. But there was a new shop there that I had never seen before, and it was called Hudson and Perry. And the woman who owns it said she'd only been open about 7 weeks at that time. And I really liked it. We were in there twice. The first time we went in and I bought this mug. It's just a plain, simple white porcelain mug. So you've got this little tree and this little bird, and then as you come around to the other side, you've got more trees and another bird, but it also says, may contain gin. I couldn't pass it up because, you know, gin is my adult beverage of choice. This is just peppermint tea, I promise. But yeah, I picked this mug up that day. But while we were in there, and it was a lot of cool houseware kind of stuff, but she had other things as well. It's a tiny little shop though. But one of the things that they had in there were these really cute, like porcelain egg cartons, like just the bottoms, not lids, but they were like the bottom of an egg carton, and they held 6 eggs. And they had them in a few different colors. And I said to her, I'm like, what's this for? And she goes, well, it's for eggs. I said, oh, because I'm thinking, who's going to buy eggs and then just stick them in a different carton? She said, well, a lot of people who buy farm eggs, if they don't have to be refrigerated, because farm eggs usually don't, you know, they'll sit them on their counter in these. Or if you make hard-boiled eggs, you can put them in there. And I'm like, oh, perfect. And Bill was there with me, and we make hard-boiled eggs all the time because we eat them for breakfast a lot. And I told him, I'm like, this is so cute. We could put our hard-boiled eggs in these. And he's like, or we could use the bowl we've been using. I'm like, yeah, I know. It seemed really impractical, but they were super cute. And so that was, I forget what day that was, maybe Wednesday, I think. And then Friday, which was our last day at my mom's, I said, I can't stop thinking about those egg containers. I'm going to go back down to that shop. So he went with me, and we got the egg containers. We got a red one and a yellow one, and they're pretty. And they now are in my refrigerator, or in our refrigerator with eggs in them. So they're being used already. And we also got like a little bluebird spoon rest. I don't know if it's actually a spoon rest. We're using it as a spoon rest. It's kind of like just a little dish, but it's in the shape of a bluebird. So it was cute. Just so many cute things in this shop. A lot of the shops that are down there, I mean, I've been in a million times, you know, and new ones come and go pretty quick. And I hope this girl's shop succeeds and she's still there a year from now, but a lot of times they don't last. You know, the same with some of the restaurants. You know, restaurants come and go down there. It's hard. It's got to be hard because there's so many, you know, and you're in a touristy area, and you know, the tourist season fluctuates, and I know the rent down there on Main Street Center Street is quite high. But yeah, so good luck to her. Again, if you're ever in Fernandina Beach area and want to check out a really cute little shop that has different things that I had not seen in any other shops, it was called Hudson and Perry. Okay. Other than that, I feel a coughing fit coming on, and I would really like to avoid it for your sake as much as for mine, especially because it'll really echo in here. I don't have the door open today because it's so chilly. Did I mention that already? I'm sorry. I started recording this like 4 different times before now, so I can't remember what I've already said, but it is super chilly out today, so I don't have the door open, so I know it's probably a little echoey in here compared to how it was last week. Sorry. Anyway, let's get to 10%. Let me give you the rest of our vacation rundown. So we left here on Saturday, a week ago Saturday, and we drove down to my daughter's in Charlotte, and we spent the night with her. Her birthday had been the day before, so we took her out to dinner for her birthday, which was fun. She turned 21. And then the next day, we drove to Congaree National Park, which was where we were going to be Sunday and Monday for a canoe/camping trip. We were supposed to be canoeing down Cedar Creek through the park and eventually coming out onto the Congaree River. Our goal was to hopefully be on the Congaree in time to see the eclipse on Monday, which that did happen. That part worked fine, and it was fabulous seeing the eclipse from there. That was wonderful experience. We were right on the path of totality, so we got to see the whole thing. That was very cool. The canoeing through the park on Cedar Creek, that was less cool. That was actually I won't say I didn't have fun, because I was with my husband. We go on these trips. They are fun, but they're a little stressful. He was joking about the fact there's a reason that they call a tandem canoe the divorce boat. Not getting divorced, but you know, it gets stressful. Yeah. The worst part about, well, there was 2 worst parts. Number 1, the park people did tell us that there were a lot of trees down in the upper end of the creek, and we might want to put in a little lower. which we did. We heeded their advice. There were still a lot of trees down. There were tons and tons of trees down. And, you know, this is a swamp area. And so we have a GPS, you know, a satellite imagery GPS for when we do boat trips. But the thing is that because so many trees come down in storms and everything, the waterways, the creek in the swamp sort of diverts itself, and so a pathway that used to be really going and wide might be closed off, and so the creek has diverged into some other path that might not have been going as much whenever our images were downloaded. I don't really know how it works, but whatever. All I know is there were certain points in the trip where we were canoeing and paddling on areas that the thing was saying wasn't even water. And there were, the first day we probably hit about 8 areas where we had to either lift the canoe over trees down in the creek, or there were some that were down but you could canoe under them, which was fine except for the spiders. That's a whole other issue. So if you don't like spiders, I'm giving you your trigger warning now because I'm going to talk about them in a minute. Or there were places where we just had to like actually drag the canoe around. There was only one place that we actually had to take everything out and portage and make our own path to portage up this steep hill and through these trees. Again, spiders. But yeah, it was a mess in there. I would not recommend to anybody to go canoeing in there unless you heard that they actually went in and cleaned up. You know, a lot of parks do go in and people go out. You know, rangers go out with chainsaws and, you know, they cut paths so that you can get through fallen trees. I mean, I realize there's probably funding issues involved with that. But this place had not been touched. It was just, as it was considered wilderness area, which we knew going in, but it was a little more wildernessy than either of us were even anticipating. So yeah, it was interesting. We did camp. We found a spot where we could camp, and that was actually kind of cool. That was our anniversary. Sunday, no, 1920. Yeah, Sunday. Sorry, Sunday was our anniversary. So we were paddling on our anniversary, and for our anniversary dinner, we had freeze-dried beef stroganoff and raspberry crumble. It was quite tasty, actually. I really do. Most of those freeze-dried packages that we take on these trips are actually pretty good. It was just kind of funny because, you know, like we're living large for our anniversary. And actually sleeping on the ground in the tent did not bother my back nearly as much as I thought it was going to. The worst part was it was so hot and humid. The bugs weren't horrible. I got like a bunch of mosquito bites as soon as we got to the creek before I had a chance to put any bug stuff on. But other than that, they were not too bad. I was surprised. But it was horribly hot. And that's what made sleeping uncomfortable. But what was really cool was that all night long, every time I woke up, I heard owls. There were barred owls in the park, and we saw one actually flying shortly after we started paddling, which is weird because you don't usually see owls during the day. But he was flying, and we saw him, and that was cool. All night long, we heard them just hooting back and forth to each other. That was really, really neat, and they were very close to where our tent was as well. And it was funny because when I woke up in the morning, I was laying there, all of a sudden I heard this one who went, hoo, hoo, just made this really bizarre noise that was not a legitimate hoot. I thought he must have failed hooting school or something, but that was kind of funny. Maybe he was a totally different type of owl. I don't know. But that was neat. We didn't see a ton of wildlife. We saw squirrels. We saw signs of the wild boars. There's wild boars in the park. We did not come upon any, which is probably actually a good thing. Birds, you know, we saw egrets and herons, and fish. There was, what do they call, gar, I think. We could see those in the water in certain areas. Mostly I saw spiders. Lots and lots of really big spiders. I saw these when we first got to the park and had to go to the visitor center for our permit. They were lining the walkways, huge webs, big spiders. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, not body. Their bodies weren't this big, but like legs, okay? Yeah, that's how big they were. And they had bulbous bodies, and they were so creepy. I don't like spiders. You know, I've come to terms with them in the fact that, like, I don't freak out about them if I see them in the house. I usually capture and release. I don't kill them. And I didn't want to kill any of these ones that we were coming across either while we were paddling, but I also did not want to take one in the face. And that was my biggest concern, because as we're paddling, and this was a fairly narrow creek in a lot of spots, you know, they're in the trees or in the bushes, and you're having to go under this stuff, and you don't see them until you're right on them. And my husband, he's in the back of the boat. I'm paddling in the front. And he's like, you know, we'll be coming up to a tree, and I'll be like, spider! And I'm ducking, and I'm like being all crazy. And he's like, oh my gosh, just paddle. He's like, just knock it out of the tree with your paddle. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, because then you don't know where it's at, for one thing. Plus I didn't want to hurt it, and I didn't really want to disrupt its living quarters. I just didn't want it in my face or my hair. And that was where the problem came with the logs across the stream that we could get under. Like, you could duck under them, but like you didn't know if there was a spider right there. And so we'd get to these logs, and I had to like bang on the log anyway, just to, snakes. That was the other thing. We did see a couple water moccasins. So you bang on the log with your paddle to make sure there's no snakes up there, because if you do that, then they'll drop into the water. So no snakes, but the second day we got up to this one log, and I banged on it, and immediately this big furry ass spider crawled right in front of my face, and I said, nope, I cannot do this. I cannot go under this log. No. And he was like, okay, seriously? He's like, do you want me to sit in the front of the boat? And see, usually he's in the back because he's the one who steers. You steer from the back, and he's the one who knows how to do all the steering maneuvers. I'm just the motor, you know, in the front. And I'm like, yes, I would like you to get in the front. And I want my net, because I had a hat with one of those face nets on it. I'm like, I want my hat with my net, and I want you in the front of the boat. And he's like, fine. So we ended up at a spot where we could, like, you know, switch places, and he's in the front of the boat. And so the very first time we come up to one of these logs or these overhanging branches, and he takes his paddle and he goes like this, and he knocks the web down and the spider and everything. And we get under there. We no sooner get under there, and I say to him, the spider's on your back. And it was this big, bulby spider. And he's like, he was starting to freak out. It fell in the boat, and then he smushed it. And see, that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to have to kill them. But I just don't want them on me. Later in that day, the spiders kind of changed. They were more leggy and longer bodies, not the real round, smushy bodies. And they were equally creepy, but they didn't creep me out quite as much. Plus, I think my tolerance level was kind of rising, because you just saw so many of them, and it's like, oh, spider, okay. But yeah. That was the worst part of the trip, honestly. There was a lot of parts that weren't great, but the spiders were the worst. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about spiders now, so if you don't like them, hopefully I have not totally freaked you out. I'll quit talking about them. Anyway, so where was I? Yes, so we got out onto the river, and it was funny because we came out on the river way earlier than we thought we were going to, but again, it was because we couldn't go the path that we thought we wanted to in the creek because it was blocked off. We had to go a different way. So we were out in the river, and we got to see the eclipse, and then we paddled down to the car and got in the car, and basically we drove, I think we drove about 8 miles, and it took over an hour because everybody was leaving the area because they'd come there to see the eclipse. And so eclipse traffic was crazy. We basically got off the highway as soon as we could and got a hotel room for the night, which was the plan anyway, but we had actually thought we would drive a little farther than we did. But we got a hotel and took showers. That was the other thing, mud. Oh my gosh, it was so muddy there. And then there were the areas where, like, we'd have to get out of the canoe to try to move the canoe around things, or, you know, pull it over logs. And I mean, literally, we're lifting this canoe over the logs, dragging it over. We were both covered in mud. It looked like we'd been mud wrestling. And the canoe had like an inch of mud in the bottom. It was a mess. And so we get to this Days Inn and get a room, and I'm sure they were looking at us like, we're going to charge you extra because the bathroom's going to look horrible. I felt like I needed to apologize in advance for what their linens were going to look like, but no, it wasn't that great of a Days Inn, to tell you the truth. I wasn't feeling too bad. But yeah, we took showers and went out and got dinner, and that went a long way to making you feel better. And then we got a good night's sleep in a real bed. And then we got up the next day and we drove down to my mom's. Where I was going with that. Yeah, that was on Tuesday. Her birthday was on Monday, so we got to see her like the day after her birthday, which was nice. And so we did a whole bunch of things with her and her gentleman friend. She has a gentleman friend. It's been an interesting year for my mom. It's nice though. As a matter of fact, they got engaged while we were down there, which was nice. I mean, I'm glad she has somebody. They're both in their 70s. They've both lost spouses to cancer in the last few years, and they enjoy each other's company. And, it's just, I'm glad she has somebody and they're happy together, and, they can enjoy life together because that's what they want. And that's what I want for her. So anyway, we spent time with them. We rode our bikes a bit. We went, one of my favorite places down there is Fort Clinch. And Hurricane Matthew had damaged the pier at Fort Clinch last year. And I knew that it was closed. Like the last time we were down there, we couldn't walk on the pier. That was back in January. But I thought they were going to repair it. Well, here they ended up having to tear it down. It was deemed a hazard for navigation, which basically is shorthand for we don't have the money to repair this pier, but if it's deemed a hazard to navigation, they'll come in and tear it down. There will be money for that. So I felt bad because that was such a nice pier. It was a lovely area. Everybody fished off the pier, and it's just been a place that I've always enjoyed being. And it looked so different without the pier there. It was crazy. But it was nice to be down there. So we did that one day, rode our bikes through that park and walked the beach a bit. What else did we do? We canoed there too. There's Lofton Creek down near my mom. So she and her fiance now, I guess, they rented kayaks and we had our canoes. So we paddled one morning and that was a lot of fun. And we ate out a lot. I mean, I swear, I feel like that's all we did was eat the whole time we were gone, except in the creek. Yeah, so anyway, that was it. And so then we left on Saturday from her house and we headed back to Columbia, actually, South Carolina, where we picked my grandson up and spent the afternoon with him. That was a lot of fun. We went to the South Carolina Museum and saw some stuff there. And we went, there's a riverfront park, the Columbia Canal and Riverfront Park, I think it's called. I might have that name a little wrong, but there's this really nice path that you can walk or run or ride your bike on right along the river and the canal that's there. That was very cool. We did that, and yeah, Ashton really enjoyed that. So it was nice to get to see him because I don't get to see him all that often. And then we drove back up to Emma's in Charlotte, a couple hours away. So we spent the night in Charlotte. And then Sunday, we took her and her roommate out for breakfast, and then we headed home. And here we are. We're home, and life getting kind of back to normal. Actually, Bill has to be out of town a couple of nights for work this week, so that's not normal. He doesn't travel very much, but it is what it is. So anyway, that was vacation. And the kitten, I'll give you a kitten update. She stayed at my house with my son because we were just a little leery about leaving her here. She hadn't quite figured out the cat door yet, and we were afraid she would figure it out while we weren't here and while like nobody was. I mean, we had somebody coming in every day to feed the pets here, but he was only here like a little bit, and we just didn't want the kitten getting outside and then maybe not being able to get back in and wandering off or whatever. So it just felt safer to have her at my house. So that's where she was, and she did fine, although she did terrorize my house. She is a very active little kitten. I'm not sure if she's, I don't see her anywhere where I could easily get her to show you. She's definitely growing. She's a healthy little thing, but she's funny. And I can't remember if on the last podcast or not I told you her name. We named her Tippy because she's lost the tip of her one ear. I think maybe I told you about that. Yeah, that was due to one of her injuries she had before we found her. But she's doing well. So anyway, that's everything for 10%. A little bit of shop news. Like I said earlier, the Legends, Myths, and Fairy Tales shipment for this month is going to be going out hopefully later today, but if not today, it will be going out first thing tomorrow. So you can be looking for that in the mail if you are in that club. The Summertime Cal is still going on for a few more days. August is our last month for that Cal. And August is the Speckles or Sock Blanks month. So, you know, if you finish anything up by the end of this month, please feel free to post it in there. And I will do all of the drawings for the August winner and the overall winners of the bigger prizes on the next podcast. I'll announce those winners. The shop is open again. I had closed the shop while I was away on vacation, but I opened it again yesterday. And I'm currently running a Summer's End progressive sale, which started today and will run through Monday, September 4th. And in case you're not familiar with a progressive sale, I've started the sale at 10%. You'll use the coupon code Summer's End, all capital letters, so it kind of looks like SUMMERSEND, SUMMERSEND, Summer's End, just no apostrophe. Anyway, that's the code, and that'll be the code for the whole sale, the whole time, but the percentage off will change progressively throughout the sale. I'm not going to announce ahead of time when the different amounts will change, but it will go up from 10% now, and by the end it will reach 30%. When I change the percentage, I will post that on the Facebook page, the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Facebook page, as well as on the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Instagram page or Instagram account. So those would be the two best places to check. And I'm also posting it at the top of the shop page. So you'll always know what the current percentage off is using that code. I'm just not announcing in advance when the amounts will change. So basically, you can shop earlier with a smaller discount but have a better selection of what's in from what's in the shop, or you can wait till a little later in the sale and maybe not have as much to choose from but have a bigger discount. So it's your choice, and you're welcome to shop multiple times. You can use that code as many times as you want during the sale. It's fine. It is not good on any club related purchases. Like I'll be posting some like club payments for, you know, people who are paying for clubs monthly on a month basis. That does not, the sale is not applying to that, nor is it applying to special orders at the moment. Well, at all. Sorry. I don't think there are any special order items up in the shop right now anyway. But if you would place like a custom order or a special order, the code would not apply to that. So just letting you know that. Anyway, if you have any questions about the sale, feel free to, again, email me. That would be the best way to get a hold of me about something businessy, fibernymph@gmail.com. The holiday countdown pre-orders, I said I was going to post those I have one more week of those. I was going to do those at the beginning of September. Since those also would not be eligible for the sale code, I'm going to wait until the sale is over to post those. So I will post those on Tuesday, Tuesday, September 5th. I will put the pre-orders back up, and they will be up through Sunday the 10th. So the 5th through the 10th, if you didn't get a chance to order one of the holiday countdown pre-orders and you're still interested, there will be one more opportunity from the 5th to the 10th to do that. These will not be discounted as the first ones were, but they will be available if you wanted to get them and you didn't get a chance to. So one last chance for that. And lastly, I am planning to do a shop update on Friday, September 8th at 6 p.m. Eastern. So that's a normal Friday update. And I'm hoping to have some Halloween colorways up in that update. So stay tuned. I will be recording next week though, so I'll tell you more about that at that point in time. So yeah, basically between now and the next time I record, the biggest thing is the fact that the SUMMERSEND progressive sale is going on. Again, the code is SUMMERSEND, all capital letters, no punctuation, no apostrophe, and it will, range in percentage off from 10%, which is where it's at right now, through 30% by the end of the sale. And the holiday countdown pre-orders will start up on the 5th of September, which I'm not sure if I'll record next Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll be one of those 2 days. It may be Tuesday again, just because of when I have to commute back to my house. And now that I'm recording from up here, it would be hard to start doing it back from there again because of setup stuff. So life is just always complicated in one way or another, isn't it? Or I make it more complicated than it needs to be. I don't know. Jury's still out on that. Anyway, I'm going to go. I think that's everything I've got for you today. I hope you are having a lovely end of your summer. I can't believe that August is almost over. It's like this summer really went by quickly. I don't know. I know we say this all the time, but I will say I'm looking forward to September and autumn. I love fall. It's my favorite season out of the year. September is my favorite month. It's also my birthday month. I'm sure there's something there. But yeah, I can't wait for September and fall. And these cooler temperatures are just awesome. So, all right. Have a great day. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And I will talk to you next week. Take care.